Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow toast Strews. This is your host with the most, A.K.A. Also known as saying. And thank you for coming through. I appreciate you stopping by. Hey, how you doing? Okay. As y'all see, your boy geared up to go ahead and get him a little walk into the neighborhood real quick before I call it a night. And I said to myself, you know what? Actually, before I go out and walk, I said to myself, you know what? Let me give y'all a little quick. I say quick. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Most likely this is gonna be a little lengthy, just a tidbit lengthy, but it's gonna make sense why it's gonna be a little lengthy, just a little bit, a little bit. All right. So, I'm trying to think the best way I would want to start this particular video off, because I already have a general idea how it's gonna go. But again, like I say, y'all stay with me on this, because funny enough, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I said to myself, you know what, let me kind of share my thoughts on this. Let me give you guys feedback on this, because it's always good to just try to take into consideration, outside sources and see, hey, check behind yourself, checks and balances, what have you. So let me get into this, y'all. Recently, and not even recently, to be truth be told, y'all, this is something I've been noticing for the last 2, maybe 3 years now, and I'm pretty sure you guys probably know what I'm talking about. There has been this uprise, I would say, when it comes to public domain, or more specifically, when it comes to social circles, discussing certain aspects of the relationship men and women have with each other when it comes to humans, Homo sapiens, the human race, as you will, right? And something I think was very interesting is oftentimes when we hear phrases like, oh, men all shit, wait, what is it? All men are shit, right? Or bitches are nothing but hoes and tricks. I often find it very interesting that when I hear these particular phrases being said, or when they're being analyzed, be it on podcasts, be it if it's on live streams, be it if it's on videos, be it if it's in news weeklies or whatever place you find it at, I think to myself, there is a grain of truth there that shouldn't be dismissed, but at the same time, there's a lot of horse shit there that should be put to the side. Keep in mind, keyword I just said, y'all, put to the side. Not tossed out the window yet, but let's just put it to the side for a second. For instance, let's use the whole notion of men ain't shit. And fellas, if again, ride with me on this. And if ladies, if you're hearing me, again, ride with me for a second, because I'm gonna get on your asses in a minute. But for my fellas, let me touch on this with y'all real quick. Because in a sense, the phrase itself is not wrong. Yes. Are there those who ain't shit? Yes, there are. Yes, men and women and anything in between or outside, however you look at it. However, I believe it's important to just fall back for a second and let's think about this for a second. Let's go a little more deeper dive into that. Because, say, in the realm of men, here's the thing. I think, fellas, if I'm being very honest, this is what I'm just thinking, I'm pondering in, pontificate, if you will, right? I know I fucked that word up. But this is why I think about it. In my mind, the way I see it is this. The truth of the matter is, can there be men who fall under the guidelines of, not the guidelines necessarily, but in the realm of a particular caste of men who turn out to be ain't shit? And do most, if not all men in any particular walk of life could veer into that particular sphere? I do think so. But again, let's keep something in mind, ladies, to just hear on this. That again, that's not say that's a guaranteed future. But it is a possibility, not necessarily a probability, given again one's circumstances, be it from a financial background, be it from a cultural background, be it from the time they're born and raised in, be it in the location, and again, and so many other different factors. So let's keep that in mind. But again, there is a grain of truth there that should not be dismissed. But just because that grain of truth does exist in that particular phrase or that train of thought does not mean that from top to bottom that becomes truth all overall. That's not true. That's not the necessary circumstances we find ourselves in. And let's be very thankful overall that's not the case. Okay? Because as I've said this before multiple times throughout my years of life living on this planet, I've recognized that more times than not, and it's really not a secret, y'all, that again, we as a species And I would make an argument. It's not exclusive to us necessarily, but I'm just using us as an example because, again, we know human for the most part, or we're aware enough of each other to the extent to say that, or at least I can say that, again, we fear from one extreme over another. It's just ingrained in our DNA, for lack of another better term, is in our DNA. So here's the thing. Because that being the case, I do understand, I do recognize that sometimes when it comes to how do we want to garner better relationship, better rapport, when it comes to our brothers and sisters around the world, and of course my tells and strules out there, what do we do? How do we improve these things? Because here's the thing, most likely that's going to be the challenge all generations have to face on some level. Now, some generations probably had a little more easier, some are going to have a little more harder. Some may have a hell of a time, some may have easy peasy. It's a mixed bag of things. But I always say is this, before the next generation comes around, I simply say, what are we doing currently that's making sure that we're prompting, first of all, our young men to be responsible, to be trustworthy, to be respectful, to be cordial to each other? What are we doing? And ladies, what are you doing? Or what can we do to assist in making sure that you're diligent, you're patient, you're considerate, you're kind, this and the other? In the essence, what I'm getting at, y'all, is to say this. In our current state of affairs, what are we doing to encourage one another to have a better relationship when it comes to our virtues versus our vices? Because it seems like we're goring on our vices, or more specifically, we're allowing our vices to gorge on us versus saying we're allowing our virtues to nurse from us. If that makes sense. And keep in mind, it's easier said than done, to be fair. So I'm not going to say that this is by all means a simple act to commit to. But I think more so it's the consistency of trying to keep it going. Because here's the thing. It's easier to allow your vices to feed on you. It's much easier. Basically allowing it to be a parasite is much more easier versus saying being more diligent when it comes to your your virtues, because again, that is a much more, not problematic, well, at times could be a problematic process, but I think that ultimately comes with the territory. But nevertheless, y'all, like I said, y'all, this video already about 7 minutes going on, and I said I wasn't gonna make it too long. So, and and in fact, I'm gonna go into highlight real quick, y'all. Like I said, y'all, give me 5 more minutes. Give me 5 more minutes to say this, and this is why I'm probably gonna end the video tonight. Is this? Because this particular story I'm going to share with you guys is going to highlight, I think in an overarching manner, what I've covered tonight, or in this particular video. So a long time ago, we wind the clock, right? Woo, all the way back to, let's say, when Nelson was maybe about 8, maybe about 9. Let's say 9-ish Nelson, right? I remember one day, when we moved into the neighborhood that, I currently reside in for many years, I remember one day, my mother would often ask me, well, Nelson, could you go out? You know how, your parents do. Oh, they left something out the car, so they ain't gonna get their asses up. They gonna have you come out your comfort and get you to go get their shit. Ain't that the bitch? All right, let's stop that, y'all. Let's quit that shit, please. If it can be helped. That's a whole nother thing we can get into for another day. But let's stay focused, right? So I remember, mother asked me to go get something from the car, and I was like, okay. So I went outside and grabbed it. But before I went inside, I remember thinking to myself, I looked at the sky, and I noticed it was a full moon outside. And I stood there for a minute, just looking at the big blue white ball in the sky, right? And I thought to myself, a thought crossed my mind, like, I could touch that. And the next step in that thought process was, I could hold that, right? So imagine 9-ish Nelson, right? Open his palm up reaching up into the sky. And keep in mind, y'all, I don't know nothing about the distance between, the earth and the moon. I don't know nothing about motherfucking stars. I don't know nothing about motherfucking space. I don't know nothing about that shit. But in my mind, right, as a child, in my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it. So I remember I reached out, right, with my palm all the way open, right, to cover the moon in my peripheral vision, right? And as I close my fist, right, I close my hand, right, and I see my fist. My eyes are focused on my fist. So here's the thing, right? I have my hand out, I grab it, I pull it back to me. My eyes are dead ass right in my fist. I'm not looking at anything else, I'm focused on my fist. And I bring my fist back to my face. And keep in mind, y'all, I know you may say, well, Nelson, do you not feel nothing? Would that be an indicator? Y'all, I don't know what the fuck the moon feels like. Okay, can you give me some grace in this bitch? God damn. I don't know what the fuck the moon feels like. Bitch, I don't know if it feels like air in this bitch. I don't motherfucking know. But I said to myself, okay, maybe I have this shit. I don't know. I'm thinking this shit could finna glow in my hand. That's why I assumed for a second. So I opened my hand slowly. I didn't want to blind myself if I was that close, right? But when I opened it up, I realized, bitch, I ain't got nothing in this, right? So I looked back up in the night sky, realizing the moon's still up there. So initially, the next thought that crossed my mind was, oh, I guess I didn't reach high enough. So now that I make this second attempt on my tippy toes to grab it, right? But still no moon in my hand. I did it a few more times and I was like, whatever. But here's the thing, y'all. Ever since that day, or that night, every so often over the years, and of course as I gain a better understanding about, space, distance, celestial bodies, this and the other, right? I understood that obviously is an impossible task. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But I recognized that every so often when I would see a full moon outside over the course of my life, at this point now, there's still a part of me, there's still the inner child within me that goes, if only I could reach just a little higher, right? Just a little higher. And funny enough, y'all, about 2 years ago, I was walking around my neighborhood and I was just looking at the stars. And keep in mind, it wasn't a full moon out. I was just looking at the stars. And I recalled something. If any of you guys have ever heard of, The Journey to the West, the story of Wakong, his path to becoming a sage, right? I remember a particular segment within the story, and some of y'all probably have heard of this. And you haven't, and keep in mind, y'all, I'm gonna give you an abridged version of the story, or the second of this particular story of his journey, right? So keep in mind, Saul Khan, at this point, wants to be recognized as a sage equal to heaven, right? Now, keep in mind, when he goes to heaven, and he's trying to talk to the emperor, he's trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to earn my status as a sage, essentially, and work towards this? Pretty much they clowned him. And he's like, you know what, fuck all this, I'm gonna fuck y'all shit up, right? So he's fucking heaven up, and everyone who pretty much comes to fight him, he sits that ass down, right? So now the Jade Emperor is like, okay, who the fuck can sit his ass down? Because obviously everyone I've sent can't sit his ass down, so what the fuck am I supposed to do? Now an idea crosses his mind. He's like, hold up. Who the fuck I haven't called? Who the fuck? Oh, shit. I know who I need to talk to. So what he do? He comes to the Buddha. He asks the Buddha, can you please sit this motherfucker down? God damn. Now, of course, the Buddha asks, well, hold on for a second. What's going on? Why are you fucking up heaven? What's going on there, right? And keep in mind, it's not that he doesn't know, but he's like, just let him chat, just to get some conversation in that bitch, right? So here's the thing. When he finds out what's going on, he's like, okay, I got something for that ass, right? So he pulls up the Sun Khan. And keep in mind, y'all, he's initially thinking, oh, I'm finna run the fade with the Buddha. Oh, shit, let's go, right? But the Buddha's like, well, hold on. I'm not here to fight you. Because from what I've heard, you want to be a sage, equal to heaven, right? So I'm like, okay, let me put you to the test. Let me present you a challenge. So the Buddha says, all right, Sun Khan, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to open my palm and I want you to stand on my palm. Right? And here's the challenge. If you can leap from my palm and reach the edge of the cosmos and come back in one leap, then I shall recognize you as a sage equal to heaven. Right? That's what he does. But here's the thing. When Wakong leaps out of his palm, he didn't realize he already lost. Because when he got back to the palm, he's like, hey, I did it. I'm finally a sage who's now the equal to heaven. And you know, the Buddha got to chuckle a little bit. You know, might get a little, gotta get some freezer action in that bitch, right? So here's the thing. The Buddha's like, well, no, you didn't. You know, someone comes like, what the fuck are you talking about? I did left it. What the fuck are you talking about? But this is where you come to the reality. The reality is this. Wakong never left the Buddha's hand. He never did. Now he's trying to figure out what the fuck that means. But the reality was this. The Buddha encompasses all things. So in reality, there was never a time he ever left the Buddha's palm. He never did. In reality, he only left just a little bit, but he was always in the palm. No matter, here's the thing, y'all, no matter how far he jumped, no matter how great his strength was, it never was ever going to be enough. Because the challenge wasn't could he do it. The challenge was could he recognize it? Did he possess the wisdom? Or more so, was he connected to the wisdom to comprehend that the challenge was ultimately one he could not compete or one he could not couldn't accomplish. That would have segmented to him having the wisdom, or again, the accessibility to the wisdom or expression of wisdom that would have made him recognizable as a sage. Maybe not equal to heaven, but at least they that would confirm, at least you are a sage in that sense. Because a sage isn't about your physicality. That's the thing. Don't get twisted, y'all. It's not to say don't take care of your body, but it's to say that the path of the sage isn't about one's physicality alone. It's about the balance between the mental, the emotional, the physical, I should say, physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual nature of all things. And when you are connected to that, then you are on the path of the sage. So here's the thing. And you know how the story goes, you know, he sits down on that mountain for about 500 years. And then, you know, he goes on the journey to the west, right? To then start the journey, if I remember correctly, start on the journey to becoming the sage who would then become the equal to heaven, right? Now, the whole point being, y'all, when I've shared this particular segment of this abridged version of the story, segment of it, is because here's the thing. In that story, we can be the Buddha and we're also Wakong. Because here's the thing. I remember as I looked up to the night sky and reflecting on that segment of the story, I looked at my palm and I thought of something. I was like, you know what? I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Because what I realized, y'all, was this. All these years, there's always been a part of me that wanted to know, could I still grab the moon? Could I hold it in my hand? And it was in that evening, 2 years ago, in that evening, I realized something. It dawned on me. There was never a time the moon was ever out of my reach. There was never a time the moon wasn't in the palm of my hand. It's been in the palm of my hand ever since I was born. Now you may say, well, how so? It's very simple. Shifting your perspective. Or say, find the balance within your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual. Once I finally understood that, I realized I literally hold all of the cosmos literally in the palm of my hand. There was never a time that it was never in the palm of my hand. Every celestial body that exists, well, today at least, sits in the palm of my hand right now. But here's the thing though. You may say, well, Nelson, what happens when you close your hand? Well, when I close my hand, y'all, I still have it in my hand. I just have a little snippet of it. That's the thing. It's like the idea of, say, how you hear about space being infinite, right? You can hold infinity, literally infinity. As y'all watching me right now, right? Look at your hand. Right now, as you're watching this video, just look at your hand. and think to yourself, could I ever really hold infinity in the palm of my hand? And you're literally holding it right now. But let's say you close your hand, you might say, well, then I'm not holding infinity then. Well, technically you still are. You're just holding just a snippet of it, which is still technically infinity. But just hold on a snippet. But let's say when you let go, it flows right in there. And that's the thing. That's how we can strive to be the Buddha, on our path to be the sage. But here's the thing. Again, why I say we can be the Buddha, y'all, but we can also acknowledge that we all come from a place where we are Wakong, Sun Wukong. Because here's the thing. Sun Wukong wanted to have that sense of recognition. He wanted that elevation. He wanted that status. He wanted all these things, but didn't realize the requirements that were needed for them. That's the thing. There was a call for maturity, but he didn't do the groundworks that are needed for that sense of maturity to be called upon and act upon. That's the thing. Here's the thing. We are, more times than not, in the beginning stages of life, we are Sun Wukong. But we have all the capacity, for the most part, to be the Buddha. Or, at the very least, become a sage onto Buddha. Think about it. Just like how we encourage people to be Christ-like, which I don't discourage. But let's sit back and think about it. How much of us from all walks of life, in some regards, we are also Buddha, or excuse me, let me correct myself here. We are Sun Wukong-like. But that can evolve us to being Buddha-like. And keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to dedicate necessarily to being a Buddhist monk by any means, but it's to say the likeness of Buddha, the inspiration Buddha invokes through these tales, these stories, especially like one of the most well-known ones around the world, being again Journey to the West that inspired Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z, then Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, what have you. Actually, I might touch that at some point in time. Anyhow, I'm looking at the time now. I know I went past 5 minutes. I know. But hopefully, you guys are getting what I'm getting at, is to say this. Sun Wukong, just to wrap it up a little quick, just in case people might have gotten lost with what I was getting at here, is to say this. Sun Wukong represents our vices, or the pursuit of our vices, presuming that this is what's going to give our virtues. That's the thing. He didn't realize that. But he had to get his ass sat down for a good 5 minutes. Basically, time out. He had to get his ass sat down for a good minute. But in that process, he chillaxed. And then he gets out the mountain. He goes on this journey with this other monk. Or this, I forget, because I think he was a monk. I can't remember if he was already a sage at that point. Anyhow, that's not here nor there. Right? But in essence, y'all, what I'm getting at is to say this. We can all, at the end of the day, start with our vices. But if we want to encourage a stronger, more unified people around the globe, the thing is this. We also have to, again, make sure there's room for the virtues to have their say. Not in a pompous manner, not in a disrespectful manner, but make sure they have their space regardless of whatever walk of life you have. If we can do that, I like to believe, in my heart of hearts, I could be motherfucking wrong. Keep that in mind. But I would like to believe overall, y'all, we're going to continue to encourage the next generation not to discourage themselves from the hard work, from the journey. And we do our part to make sure that it presents a challenge, but it's not so unrelenting, if that makes sense. Because if that becomes the case, then we can't be surprised when, worse comes to shove, our vices continue to devour us. And what's going to be left? Think about that. Hey, let me make this clear, y'all. I'm not discouraging y'all. Pardon me. I'm not discouraging you guys not to have your vices. Let me make that clear, because that's a part of the human condition. But do not be ruled by your vices. Allow yourself to be championed by your virtues. But understand, for the grunt work that's in life, sometimes you gotta let your vices get a little bit in there. Just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. But anyhow, y'all, anyhow, I'll go ahead, ramble enough. I'm gonna catch y'all later, so I can go ahead, get my workout in real quick. Loki, I ain't gonna lie. I'm walking around my island right now, and I ain't gonna lie, your boy's sweating a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. And I already feel my voice feeling like it's gonna crap up in a minute. So let me shut my ears up and let me go ahead and let y'all go. But by all means, you guys have any thoughts on what I discussed or anything else, any particular stories that maybe you would like to share, your any particular experiences to in regards to this particular topic, please feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Feel free to share out, get this to other people. And yes, y'all, I'm going to bring back the sus series. It's going to come back. I know I probably said that several times before, even now, truth be told. But there's one in particular I want to touch on. I might take, let's just say this. I'll touch on this soon. I'll just say that. I'm going to touch on this soon. Okay? Because it's been, actually, I probably have several I do need to get out of the way. But anyhow, they'll come out when they come out. But anyhow, y'all, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out, ain't I down, love y'all. Namaste. 4 kids. All right? And I'll catch y'all later. Bye.